Hello, I'm Michelle Bohm, owner of Inspired Salon and Boutique, and your host for Inspired, a show brought to you by I've Decided. This show is all about the stories and the people that inspire us, because we believe that one of the most important pieces to your success puzzle is that spark of inspiration. And by hearing people tell their stories, their ideas, share what inspired them, we hope that that will light a fire in you to achieve your own goals and dreams. Today, I am inspired by my guest and my friend, Darrel Crook. Darrel, hello. Welcome today to Inspired.
Hi, Michelle. It's great to be here.
We're happy to have you. Now, Darrel and I have known each other for many years, and when we first met, you weren't quite sure what you wanted to do and what you wanted to be, so it's been really cool to watch that evolve over the last year. And Darrel has a whole brand called Fishing for Inspiration. So obviously he would be a great guest for us today. But Darrel, I'd love to hear a little bit about what inspired you to evolve from just this idea to becoming a writer, a mentor, a speaker. What was that spark of inspiration in you, and what made you take action on it, more importantly?
Wow. Well, it's kind of a long story, and I'll try not to drag it out too long. But the whole thing about initially just even wanting to inspire people and feel like that was my calling all started with a story I was listening to about a tennis player who was in a slump, and her coach was trying to help her find her greater purpose. And I was listening to that, and I thought about my greater purpose, and I just felt like at the end of my life, I wanted to be known as someone who inspired people. I felt like I was called to inspire people. So I felt like that was going to take on a lot of different ways that I was going to do that. But in the beginning, I knew one way that I could do that was I could start off with a Facebook page called Fishing for Inspiration. Mm-hmm. So that's where the Fishing for Inspiration name originally came from. And then things just kind of progressed along, and I was doing that for a while, and then and I had some opportunities to speak here and there, and I'd been doing a little bit of speaking here and there for years, but had some opportunities to actually share personal development with people, doing that kind of speaking, and that really sparked something in me, because not only was I enjoying doing it, but the people that I was talking to were eating it up, and I'm like, wow, I think I've really got something here. And then one day I was sitting down talking to someone about Toastmasters and some of the things that you could learn there, because I knew I'd never actually had any training on speaking. But anyway, it came from that conversation talking about Toastmasters and some of the things you could learn there towards being a professional speaker. And that's when I decided that that's what I was going to do. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that about you, but you've always been someone that kind of ate up that personal development piece. Like, you were always reading, always knew that there was something there. You just didn't know how it was going to work out.
Oh yeah, for a long time. Yeah, that was definitely a big piece of the puzzle for me. I'm not even sure when it started. It's, I don't know, probably 20 years ago or something like that.
Time goes fast there.
Yeah, but somebody kind of turned me on to some personal development. You know, back then it was Zig Ziglar and Brian Tracy, right. And I still listen to some of those same people now. But yeah, I just ate it up. It just seemed to make sense to me and helped me and that kind of stuff. So, listening to CDs in my car, so constantly feeding my mind and reading books and all that kind of stuff. Actually, there's a little bit of story behind reading, because for the longest time I wasn't even a reader. But I was in a business with someone who was my mentor and who I respected highly. Mm-hmm. And he gave me a couple books and he told me to read those books. And so I read those books, and I've been reading ever since then. Before that, I was already listening to that stuff, but I wasn't reading it. So yeah, listening to CDs and reading books, and now a lot of it is on YouTube and that kind of stuff. But yes, I'm constantly feeding my mind with personal development. And it's kind of twofold. I get two things out of it. I get things that help me in my everyday life, things that inspire me and motivate me, mm-hmm. but also things that I can use to help inspire other people.
Right.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. You know,
Right.
that's the reason that you do what you do is you have to fill that cup so that you can pour it into other people.
Right,
And I
right.
love that about you.
Yeah.
The other thing that I knew about you the first time we met was that you're an outdoorsman. You specifically love fishing, so it totally makes sense that you would have fishing for inspiration. I was thinking about this because our weekly winning word for the I've Decided community is environment. And I like to think of you as the new environmentalist. Only, you know, you're going green. You're helping us get our environment in our brain
Right.
clear.
Uh-huh.
Kind of like an activist, right? You're like an environmental activist, but for our brain.
Right.
So what things do you do besides reading and, you know, filling your cup up that way to make sure that you have that healthy, clear environment in between your ears?
Well, I work on my gratitudes, that type of stuff. One of the big things I do that really helps me a lot, though, is exercise. Exercise is something that's really good for our brains. There again, you know, listening to YouTube and reading about it and that kind of stuff. I've heard some great articles on it, and you know, Dr. John Rady wrote a book on it called Spark, and he talks about how there's been medical paper after paper after paper that have come out about how good exercise is for our brains. You know, in the past, it's mainly been marketed for heart health and weight loss, but it's actually more beneficial for our brains than for any other part of our body. So what happens is you get blood flow to your brain, oxygen, your body produces chemicals that help with brain function, and your body produces a chemical or a protein called BDNF. And BDNF has actually been called miracle grow for the brain. It actually helps your brain grow.
Really?
And helps with plasticity. A lot of people don't realize that probably that your brain continues to grow and continues to be plastic even late into your life, but it does. And this protein BDNF helps with that. So exercise helps with so many things. Just helps you to be more relaxed, less stress. It helps with depression. It's actually the same thing as taking an antidepressant,
Right.
and actually with less chance for relapse and that kind of stuff. So
it's like physical training, but for your brain.
yeah, actually, I like to tell people that I take a supplement, and that supplement is called aerobic exercise. It's basically anything that gets your heart rate up.
Okay.
Anything that's good for your heart is also good for your brain.
Okay.
So that's one thing you can remember about it. So if you're wondering what type of exercise, that kind of stuff, it's basically just getting your heart rate up. Anything that's good for your heart is also good for your brain.
Yeah. Well, you told a great story last week about how to get excited about things like that, about exercise. Tell our guests that story, because it was so funny. And I did it the next day when I thought I have to go work out. I put a smile on my face and made myself do it.
Right. Okay, well, let me start with this. I've had some people ask me lately, well, what if I don't like to work out? What if I hate it? Well, first of all, you can stop telling yourself you hate it. That's probably one of the, but I thought there's three options there. First of all, you can do it anyway and hate every second of it. I've heard some people do it that way.
Yeah, some people do that.
Or like you said, you can learn to enjoy it, or the third option would be to live with the ill effects of no exercise. So if you're going to learn to enjoy it, how do you learn to enjoy it? Well, I'll tell you what's worked for me. I was at the gym one day, and I was doing some strength training that I do two or three times a week. Well, I just happened to be gritting my teeth, and I knew I needed to stop doing that. That was something that's been a problem for me for a while, yeah. And I'd been reading and listening to, there again, feeding my mind with articles about smiling. So I thought, well, I'll make myself smile. Yeah. And so I thought about that, and I thought, well, I've seen my daughter do this big kind of exaggerated smile when she comes out on stage. And it probably looks better on her, but it was a really exaggerated smile, just, you know, I don't know if I can even do it now. But anyway, so yeah, it is kind of goofy, which is even better because it kind of makes you laugh a little bit sometimes. So that's even better. But part of the reason I did the big exaggerated smile was because I knew if I tried to do a little fake smile, it wasn't going to work. But doing that big exaggerated smile, it then relaxed into a more normal smile. So anyway, I kept doing that during my workout that day, and I've been doing that for probably about 2 years now.
Wow.
And I noticed one day that I had done it to the point where as soon as I turn on my music and start to walk out of the locker room, I automatically start to smile. I just think that's a really interesting thing, how I've actually programmed my brain for that. So I enjoy my workouts more. And so initially I thought, well, that's just a really cool thing, how I've programmed my brain. Well, then to take it one step further than that, I was on my way to pick up Kurt, my friend Kurt, to go fishing one day a while back. And of course, I was in a good mood anyway because we were going to go fishing.
Right.
But I was listening to some of the music that was on my phone, some of the same music that I listened to when I'm at the gym. And I was listening to a new song at the bottom of the list. Well, when that song got done, it went to the top of the list. And a lot of times that's where I start when I'm at the gym. And I couldn't even tell you what the name of the song is. I just know it's the song at the top of the list. So it wasn't the song itself. But the song started playing and I'm driving along. And all of a sudden I realized I'm smiling and my mood was elevated.
Right.
So I said, wow, it's just like a Pavlov dog
You've
experience.
trained
I trained my brain. So it's interesting how we can train our brain. So if you don't like exercise, you can actually change that.
Yes.
I would say, first of all, stop telling yourself you don't like it, because self-talk is a big thing too. But there are some ways you can do, like I did with smiling, where you can actually learn to enjoy exercise. Yeah.
It is so funny, but you're absolutely true. Your brain will believe whatever you tell it.
That's right.
So you might as well tell it something good. You're so right on that. You've taught me about not trashing that mental ecosystem that we all have, in making sure that if you do that, you're going to have an unhappy life. If you really take care of the mental environment that you are living in, you're pretty well immune to a lot of the things that derail success. And that's fantastic. You've taught me some of those strategies for keeping that garbage out, garbage in, garbage out when it comes to that. And one of those things has been the media that I consume.
Yeah.
What am I filling my brain with?
Right.
Are there any other strategies that you use or things that you can share with our viewers that really help keep that ecosystem clear of clutter and keep us functioning at our highest level?
Boy, what would that be? So I started with feeding my mind, and I really haven't gone over that list too much, I guess. So, the books you read, the people you spend your time with, the music you listen to, and that's one of them, like I was mentioning, listening to this music at the gym, but music is very important. And you talked about media, so the television that you watch and other videos, your self-talk is a huge one. I always try to make sure that my self-talk is positive. I've tried to clear out the word hate altogether, just because it's such a negative word. It takes you down a negative path. And the other one is your body language. So let's go back to the gym again. So something else I do at the gym, as well as listening to good music and smiling, is I do these power poses. And
what's a power pose? So that's a new term for a lot of people. What's a power pose?
So great. I'm glad you asked that question. So a power pose is basically anything where you spread out. You make yourself bigger like this.
Puff up kind of thing.
Something like that. So you're spreading out. You can do them sitting down or standing up or whatever. But I like this one where you're standing up and you spread your arms like this. I think of it as a V for victory. Like when someone runs across the finish line.
Yeah, they always do that. They always do that. Right.
So one of the things I'll do, let's say I'm doing curls. I get done doing my curls and I stand up like this.
I want to go to the gym with you, Darrel, because I bet you're a fun guy to watch at the gym.
Yeah, I'm sure some people think I'm crazy, but I don't care, because it really does
makes
help.
A big difference.
But anyway, so I stand up like this, like I've just won the curling championship of the world. Yeah, and there's another thing that I do. I created this thing on the treadmill, because I knew in exercise that it's good to also do something that involves coordination. So I was thinking about that, and I knew I'd seen people going sideways on the treadmill.
Right.
So I thought, well, that looks like it would involve more coordination. I wasn't sure why they were doing it, but I thought, I'm going to try this. So I slowed the treadmill down, and I started going sideways, and then I would spin and go the other way. So it's about an 8 count one way, and then spin and go in the other way. And obviously the spins take coordination too.
Oh my gosh.
So I listen to the same song all the time, and that's at the end of my workouts now. Yeah. So I'm doing that as well.
And just trying new things, really. I mean, you're developing your brain that way because you're just willing to take the risk and try something different.
Yeah, learning new things
See what happens.
Is a good one too.
And I love what you talked about, the people that you spend your time with.
Oh yeah.
That to me is a huge one. I can tell when sometimes you walk into a room and the energy there is just intoxicating. And I love, especially in the I've Decided community, I feel that every time I walk into one of those meetings.
Yeah.
So the people you spend your time with has to be the biggest piece of your environment. That is your environment, really. Yeah. They're helping put the garbage in or taking it out.
Yeah, I tend to say that the two biggest are your self-talk and the people that you spend your time with. But yes, the people you spend your time with is definitely a huge part of it. And I'm glad you brought the conversation back to that, because that is one of the things I love about I've Decided.
Yes.
I always feel so upbeat, and I love our I've Decided get-togethers, because I know I'm going to be with a bunch of other people who are upbeat and happy and focused on their futures and that kind of stuff. And yes, that environment is so important.
Yes.
Yeah.
And hearing you at we had the I've Decided Success Conference a couple weeks ago, you inspired so many people there. So my last question to you has to be, what inspires you?
I think other people's success stories are one of the main things that inspires me. I love hearing other people's success stories. So a lot of times that's why I try to share some of my own success stories, some of the things that have inspired me, in hopes that that's going to inspire other people. I love hearing other people's success stories. Sometimes you can hear them in books or whatever. And like I say, I share those with other people as well. Mm-hmm. So
it's wonderful that those sparks of inspiration spark more sparks of inspiration, and before you know it, we're all moving towards success. So I love that.
One of the great things about hanging out with people like I've Decided, you can hear their success stories as well. So
Absolutely. Well, we've talked a lot today about the importance of protecting your mental environment, and you prepared a fishing for inspiration for us today about environment. So let's take a look at that.
All right, sounds good. Boy, check out these weeds. Check out the environment. Would you call that the environment where the fish live? Yeah, I guess you would. What kind of environment do you live in? What kind of environment are you creating for yourself? It's up to you, A while back, we were going through a remodeling project on our house, and it seemed like it drug out forever. And I would have to walk through the house from time to time, and it would bother me to look at it. But I got to thinking one day, I don't live in this house. You know where I live? I live right here. And although that might be kind of funny and might seem kind of ridiculous, there's a lot of truth in that. We live right here. What kind of environment are we creating for ourselves where we live? It's up to us. What are we feeding our minds with? The people we spend our time with, the books we read, the music we listen to, television and other videos, our self-talk, those things that we tell ourselves over and over again, and even our body language affects how we think and feel about ourselves. The two that I think that affect us the most are the people that we spend our time with. That's really an environment builder right there. We are affected, I almost said infected, which is kind of correct as well. We are affected by the people we spend our time with a lot more than we realize. And then our self-talk is just there all the time. We want our self-talk to be positive, creating a positive environment to look at, to live in. Think about that while I see if I can catch some of these fish.
Thank you, Darrel. That was so great. That's absolutely Perfect. Again, I am Michelle Bohm. This is Inspired TV. Thank you to our guest today, Darrel Crook from Fishing for Inspiration. To find out more about how to protect your environment, join the I've Decided community. You can find out more at I've Decided, and the link will be posted in with this video. Thank you so much. I'm Michelle Bohm, your host for Inspired.
PeoriaLife.com